Alright, so today we're going to learn about conic sections, and what conic sections are is if you take a cone and slice it in certain directions, it forms this conic section. We also refer to them as cross sections, but when we specifically cut a cone, we call it a conic section. There's three types, really. If you cut a cone horizontally, like I'm doing in picture 1, my shape or my conic section is a circle. Okay, if I cut it diagonally, like I'm doing in picture 2, it turns into an ellipse. And if I cut it vertically, like I'm doing in picture 3, I get a shape of a parabola. Okay. Now, if I stack two cones on top of each other, like I'm doing in the last picture there, and slice it vertically, we get this shape called a hyperbola. Now, we're going to talk more about the hyperbola later on. We're actually going to talk about all these shapes. Today, we're specifically looking at a circle. Circles should be reviewed for you. It's a simple equation. It's x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. Okay, h comma k is my center. Okay, and r is my radius. Okay, so we're going to practice writing some equations of the lines here. I'm going to go ahead and do number 1 for you. Don't forget our equation, I'll write it here at the top, is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. Okay, so when we're writing our equation here, our center here is at h comma k, and this is going to be my r back here. So I'm going to have x minus negative 4 squared plus y minus 6 squared equals 4 squared. And then you just simply simplify, so that's going to turn into a plus. So we're going to have x plus 4 squared plus, we can't do anything in the bottom, next one, so it's going to be y minus 6 squared equals 16. And that's our equation of our circle for that conic section. Now I'll give you a couple minutes. I want you to do number 2, and then I'll reveal the answer here right after you're finished. So the answer you should have gotten for number 2, you should have gotten x squared plus y plus 2 squared equals 49. Now some of you might have had x minus 0 there. When you have that minus 0, it simply just goes away and becomes whatever the letter is squared. So if you have x squared, y squared, that's what it becomes. Let's go ahead and do the third one. Okay, so it's going to become my center, x minus 1 squared plus y minus negative 5 squared equals the square root of 10 squared. Okay, so we can't do anything with x minus 1. That's going to stay, so it's just going to be x minus 1 squared. This will change to a plus, so it's going to be plus y plus 5 squared. And remember back when we did radicals, when I take two numbers, the square root of 10 times the square root of 10, it simply cancels out the square root and just leaves you with the original number of 10. So here's my equation of this circle or conic section. Okay, I'm going to give you a couple minutes. I want you to go ahead and do try number 4, and then I will review the answer in a second. All right, so for this one, you should have gotten x minus 9 squared plus y squared equals 75. Now to do square root of 5 square root of 3 times 5 square root of 3, remember here, you multiply the 5 and the 5, that's 25. Square root of 3 times square root of 3 is 3. So 25 times 3 is 75. That's where this number came from here. Okay, let's go ahead and practice when we're given a graph. Okay, when you're given a graph, okay, you gotta find your center. Okay, our center here is right there. Okay, at that point, okay, that point is at negative 3, negative 4. So my center here is at negative 3, negative 4. To find my radius, you go from the center to the outside and just count how many units we went. And in this case, we went 2 units. So my radius is 2. So my equation of my line would be x minus negative 3 squared plus y minus negative 4 squared equals 2 squared. So those change to positive. So we got x plus 3 squared plus those change also to a positive. So it'd be y plus 4 squared equals 4. So there's my equation of that circle. Give you a couple minutes. I want you to work on try number 6, answer the question, and then I'll reveal the answer in a second. Alright, so the answer that you should have gotten for number 6, you should have gotten the following: x squared plus y minus 1 squared equals 36. So if we count this, this is our radius of 6. There's my center. My center is at 0, 1. Remember I told you if you get that minus 0, you get rid of the 0 part and just leave it as the letter squared. Okay, now we're going to talk about what happens if we're not given the radius. We have to find the radius. So there are two formulas that we have to use to be able to do this. The distance formula is the first one. And let's recall that. That's d equals the square root of x2, x sub 2, minus x sub 1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. Okay, so there it is. X2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. The other one is the midpoint formula, and that is simple. That is, you take your two x's, x1 plus x2, add them together, divide it by 2, comma, because it is going to still be an ordered pair because you're finding the midpoint. It's going to be your y1 plus your y2, all divided by 2. Okay, so you would get a point there for your midpoint as well. Okay, let's go ahead and practice. So we're given the center, and we need to end an endpoint, so we need to find our radius. Okay, so our radius is going to be from that center to that endpoint. To define the radius, we just are simply going to use the distance formula. Okay, so it's going to be the square root. Now, it doesn't matter which one's x2 and which one's y2 and all that good stuff. I'm just going to use the center as my x2. So it'd be negative 2 minus my x1, which would be negative 4 squared, plus my y2. My y2 has to be same as my x2. So since I use negative 2 as my x2, I got to use 6 as my y2, minus 12, and let's square that. Okay, so this is going to change to a plus there. Okay, so that's going to be the square root of 2 squared plus, and 6 minus 12 will be negative 6 squared. So 2 squared is 4, plus negative 6 squared is 36. So I get my radius, my r, is the square root of 40. So my equation of this line, my equation here, will be simple. It will be my x minus my center x, which is negative 2, squared, plus my y minus my y of my center, which is 6, squared, equals r squared. Now r is the square root of 40. And remember, square root of 40 times the square root of 40 is simple. Cancel out the square roots, and you're just left with that 40. Change that to a plus there, so it's going to be x plus 2, that's 2 there, squared, plus y minus 6 squared equals 40. Yeah, let's go ahead and try number 8. Same thing. These are all going to be, so when you're given the center and the endpoint, you got to find your radius by doing the distance formula. So my distance formula is the square root, and we'll do negative 4 x2 minus my negative 1 squared, plus my y2, which is negative 7, minus my y1, which is negative 5 squared. Okay, those change to a plus, so negative 4 plus 1 gives me negative 3 squared, plus, and that's a negative 7, and it's going to be plus 5, which would be negative 2 squared. So negative 3 squared is 9, negative 2 squared is 4, so it gives me that of a square root of 13 as my radius. My radius is the square root of 13. So that means that my equation will be my x minus negative 4, which turns into a plus 4, squared, plus y minus my y of my center, which is negative 7, so y minus negative 7 would turn into y plus 7, squared, equals my radius, which is the square root of 13. When I square that, the square root goes away, so it's just going to be 13. Okay, go ahead and I want you to try 9 and then try 10, and I'll reveal the answers in a second. Alright, so for number 9, you should have gotten the equation x squared plus y minus 4 squared equals 85. And then for number 10, you should have gotten x minus 3 squared plus y plus 3 squared equals 218. Alright, so let's try it now. When we're given the endpoints of a diameter, so what we need to do, we need to do two things. We need to find the distance between those. Okay, so the distance, we need to find the distance between the endpoints. So it's the square root of my x1, -1 minus 5 squared plus my y's, 8 minus 6 squared. Okay, so this is going to be the square root of -6 squared plus 2 squared. So -6 squared is 36. 2 squared is 4. Okay, and I get my, this is the square root of 40, which comes out as 2 square root 10. Now, if you forget how to do that, let me know. Okay, so that gives me my diameter. So I know this whole thing is 2 square root 10. So that means my radius means I divided that by 2. So my radius in this case is the square root of 10 because the 2 will just cancel out. Okay, then we need to find our center. And to do that, we're going to do the midpoint formula. Okay, which is -1 plus 5 divided by 2, comma, my 8 plus 6 divided by 2. So -1 plus 5 is 4. 4 divided by 2 gives me a center. So I'm going to write over here center of 2, comma. 8 plus 6 is 14 divided by 2 is 7. So my center is there. So we know our radius, we know our center, so we're good there. So we can write our equation. It's going to be x minus 2 squared plus y minus 7 squared equals square root 10 squared is 10. Alright, so I want you to go ahead and try 12, 13, and 14. Alright, so for this one you should have gotten x plus 4 squared plus y squared equals 25. For 13 you should have gotten x plus 1 squared plus y minus 7 squared equals 18. And for the last one, you should have gotten x plus 15 squared plus y plus 15 squared equals 25. So just a quick reminder, it is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. H comma k is your center and r is your radius. Okay, so when we're asked to find the center of this, okay, remember the center is the opposite of these. Okay, so this would be my x, so my center would be at -2 comma 5, and my radius would just be simply the square root of that, which is 3. So if I'm asked to graph it, I would graph -2 comma 5, and then I would use my radius 1, 2, 3 in all 4 directions, graph 4 points, and then connect the 4 points. Okay, so go ahead and try number 2. So for number 2, you should have gotten your center at 7 comma 0 with a radius of 1. So 7, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then go 1 in all 4 directions around it, 1 unit away, connect the 4, and there's your circle. So when we're asked to write the equation in standard form and then identify the center and radius, standard form, you cannot have any numbers in front of x squared and y squared, so we're going to divide everything here by 5. Okay, because whatever I do to one, I got to do the other. So my equation would be x squared plus y squared equals 16. So my center would be at 0, 0. My radius, the square root of 16, would be at 4. So 0, 0, go 1, 2, 3, 4 in all 4 directions. and connect them, and there's your circle. Go ahead and try number 4. Okay, and then there's the answer for number